the video, I'd like to just say a few things that involve Gairdner. I'm very fortunate that I have an excellent team, and they're sitting here at table 14. Our board member, Gary Goldberg, is there, Sheila Robinson, Penny Valberman, Nora Cox. We have Ron Perlman and Phil Marsden who help us with our scientific adjudication. So this is a small but great team. And I've been privileged to be involved for 28 years with the Gairdner Foundation, first as a member of the Medical Advisory Board when Charlie Hollenberg recruited me while at UBC, and the last 17 years as President and Scientific Director. It's always good to know that one can keep a job. I have had an amazing experience interacting with truly the world's best biomedical scientists. Many of them have come back time and time again to Ontario and Canada, share their knowledge and their expertise. They like Canada. We've treated them hospitably. They want to come back. I've got one scientist in Boston, Gary Revkin, whose one wish is to go out to Nunavut to speak to high school students there about careers in science. It's amazing. So these are scientists who have made the major advances in our time that have been honored by Gairdner. Genomics, transplantations, MRI machines, and all the other advances that you're familiar with. We've been pleased to play a special role in the science culture across Canada. When we were negotiating with the federal government for the grant that's helped Gairdner, I was asked by a deputy minister, what does Gairdner do? Does it just come, do the winners come, get their prize, have a nice dinner, go home? I said, no, let me explain to me what you do. They come here for a whole week. And I said, in this particular example, the person had been in Vancouver, in Edmonton, he'd come to give a public lecture in Toronto, participate in the Toronto program, spoken to high school students in all these areas. I said to you, Mr. Deputy Minister, does it bother you that most of these winners are not from Canada? He says, not after hearing what their contribution is to science culture. In fact, it was suggested that this approach might be used in other domains of science in this country. Financially, we are grateful to the Government of Canada, as mentioned, which literally saved our awards with the $20 million allocation to rename them as the Canada Gairdner Awards. And this has raised their value not only monetarily to $100,000 each, but internationally, very much. And last year, this came at this exact time of our 50th anniversary with an incredible celebration of scientific excellence. Over 70 Gairdner awardees came back, including 25 Nobel laureates who spoke across Canada and inspired both current and possibly future scientists. It was a gathering perhaps unlike anyone that had ever occurred before in Canada. Now, several of the Nobel laureates also were asked to visit Ottawa and to meet with the Prime Minister, but also at a special lunch of the Clerk of the Privy Council and 15 deputy ministers to talk about how to achieve excellence. And they were then introduced in the House. And Peter Laureate of Australia, one of our past winners, sent me a note, and he said the following: the Gairdner International Awards have done a great deal to enhance the high profile of Canadian medical research, both at home and abroad. However, a question period in the Canadian House is as much theatre as it is in Canberra or London. The surprise was to see restrained Canadians behaving like that. But then I've never been to a hockey game. So maybe the prorogation wasn't so bad. We appreciated the many corporations, institutions that are in this room this year that have helped us in the past and supported us, and we would like to take the stance now that they're the Canada Gairdner Awards, as the Globe says, and was mentioned, these are Canada's only major international scientific prize. They inspire medical research, present and future. They are ours, and they belong to the world. I would hope there would be a general pride in the academic and in the private sector and the government community about the prize. I went to the Nobel Prize this year as their guest, and I was impressed how the Swedish community, the academic community, was totally engaged with their prize. What a great stature it has, but maybe we can make Gairdner the best life sciences and medical prize in the world with a little bit more doing. We do, however, have some concerns. And we're concerned every year that among the 100 or so nominations we receive, there are relatively few Canadians. We took note of the Science, Technology, and Industry Canada report, the STIC report, which is called the State of the Nations report, which came out a year ago. That said several things about Canadian prominence in biomedical research. We are 8th, or maybe a little better, in the number of publications per capita. When it comes to prestigious and distinguished awards, over the last half century, we are 12th. We're tied with Israel. Even Australia has twice as many of these distinguished awards as we have. And of course, as you heard from David Naylor, when we're cataloged in terms of the capability in innovating discovery into products, we're 16th. So it tells us that even our great developments or profound success or spectacular achievements still have a few miles to go. And it also tells us when it comes to distinguished prizes, we seem to be missing something in developing science stars and certainly in biomedical innovation. Bruce Alberts, the editor-in-chief of Science and Gairdner recipient, said, "If Canada is to prosper in the highly competitive global economy, science will need to play a larger role in the Canadian society." Yes, overall, we're very good on a world scale in scientific development, but somehow, and it kind of rings true at this Olympic occasion, we're a little short of gold medalists. Since most stars come out of discovery science, we also must be very careful that we don't let our guard down about maintaining and increasing the support of discovery science. Canadians have won the Gairdner Award over the years 43 times, but because of the greater worldwide circulation of nominations, in the last 20 years, there have been 9. So it's getting tougher, and the whole world is getting more competitive. So what's missing? There's always an aspect, and I think there's truth in it, that when we submit our stars for major international prizes, we're too modest and we're not as good at it. And I must say that sometimes we get nominations from the United States and you would say, let's say it's UCLA, somebody has worked at this for 2 or 3 weeks to write that story for that person. So that may be a component. Maybe we don't really eagerly enough identify the brightest and encourage them to take this pathway. Maybe we don't provide enough good mentoring so that they're too much on their own or can't do that creative thing on their own. Maybe the funding is still too low. Maybe the leadership is not helpful. Maybe it's a lack of not concentrating our efforts. The deputy ministers in Ottawa asked Dag Samuelson, former head of the Nobel Prize, why there are so few Nobelists from Canada. And he said, you need to invest more, and certainly in centers of excellence. You know, at this time of Olympics, it's easy to make a comparison. I think we've all enjoyed the Winter Olympics. I could see the rustle of interest when the score about the Germany-Canada hockey game, fortunately in our favor, was announced. And what has been better than seeing the crowds in Whistler and in Vancouver all having a wonderful time? It's true that the Winter Olympics have been for Canada the most exhilarating event since Expo 67. It's the way we really like our country to be more often. The world has seen Canada's most beautiful city, the pride and joy of Canadians on the streets and across the land, and just remember how that torch went across thousands of miles and everybody had a great time and felt they were part of our spirit. So there has been a new spirit, a new determination to excel, at least in the sports world, like never before. Maybe a bit over the top when we sort of feel a little reserved, a little undignified about that word owning the podium. On the other hand, it's also a bit refreshing to see that our young people would aspire and have that opportunity to develop and occupy the podium, and they're doing well, and they'll do even better in the future. Last week, the Globe, who seems to be getting very into these issues of excellence, suggested that the very successful cooperative partnerships which set the stage for Vancouver should be modeled by government, institutions in the academic field, business, and other domains such as biomedical science, so we can have more discoveries, more innovation, more Gairdners, more Novels. We need to have an unmitigated goal to succeed in science like we've just developed for the Olympics. We've made tremendous advances in the last 20 years. I mentioned all the great institutions in this city, but we need renewed, nonpartisan cooperation between federal, provincial, and local governments, the various granting agencies, the academic and scientific community, and the business community to put us over the top where we belong. One thing we learned from the Olympics is that the competition never stays the same. Just look at figure skating and ice speed skating, where the Koreans and Chinese appear to be taking over. Koreans and Chinese have major ambitions in science as well as in speed skating. We too should have such lofty ambitions. Later this year, Gairdner, because of its concern about the number of Canadians being nominated, is proposing to do its small share in looking at the excellence issue in some depth. Why aren't there more Canadian biomedical science who compete for Gairdners, Laskers, Nobels, and other awards? Bruce Albert says again, we have a fundamental need in Canada to build a stronger science culture, and I think it needs to start early on. I'm very appreciative that Minister Malloy is present here tonight, and he was very generous when he came to the Gairdner 50th to commend us and to give us his excellent words. We need leadership actually at the highest levels on scientific occasions. Philip Sharp, who is from MIT and is on our board and previous winners, said to me, it's excellent that Canada has now put its name in front of the Gairdner Awards. What you need is to have the Queen there. He actually said king because he doesn't know his royalty so well. But what he meant is that the state should be represented at major science occasions the way the state was represented at the Olympic Games. Because after all, and I think everybody in this room would agree, that science and its derivatives are a major engine for this country, but we haven't got the engine moving as smoothly and as powerfully as we could. So we also need to engage the media, and the Globe seems to have a renaissance in pointing out the positive contributions that science will make to the economy. There seems to be a chorus of voices raised in support of this, and so I hope that the pipeline for discovery leading to innovation and commercialization will be one of large diameter and of very rapid flow. This holds particularly for this Toronto and Ontario region, which is the most blessed and is truly the economic engine of our land, as David has said so well. So the TBI dream should be to see even greater biomedical science institutions here, active and successful businesses, greater public appreciation of the role of science, and then perhaps as a reward and recognition, more Gairdner and maybe the Nobel winners. To quote the gravelly voice of Donald Sutherland, maybe it's time to stand up and say, we believe. Thank you very much.
Dr. Dirks, TBI has the dream to make Ontario stronger, just like you have done to make Canada stronger with its world presence with the Gairdner Awards. Truly, this is a lifetime achievement. You worked very hard to make Canada a known country at the top of the world and a great place for our research scientists to study and work. It is up to us to make it happen and help you get more Canadians getting those awards. So count on us, Dr. Dirks, we're with you. This brings an end to our evening. I thank everybody for attending tonight. And it's been a wonderful evening from TBI's point of view. We just thank you, and we hope that we can continue to have such good presence at our event next year. Thank you very much.